Above Ground Podcast. Don't let the music die. Number 125.
Disclaimer. The hosts of this podcast, Timothy Patrick and Will Foley, are by no means medical professionals. However, having lived experience with mental illness themselves, they have gained useful perspectives on common mental health issues that some of us struggle to overcome on a daily basis. By sharing their stories, they hope to create connection. By creating connection, they hope to help you find your purpose. And through purpose, we can all begin to build the foundation for positive mental health. This is Above Ground Podcast.
Are you ready to lace up your boots, throw up your horns, and jump into the pit? Then let's stomp the stigmas of mental illness. It's time for Above Ground Podcast. Now, Will Foley and Timothy Patrick.
Hey, what is up, everyone? Welcome to episode 125 of Above Ground Podcast. Above Ground Podcast, because you can't serve below. Saturday, November 20th, coming up in a couple of weeks, is International Survivor of Suicide Loss Day. And the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention would love for you to be part of one of our programs on that day. It is the Saturday before Thanksgiving every year. And it is a day for survivors to come together, share their grief, share their pain, use it to help others feel less alone and connected. That's right, International Survivor of Suicide Loss Day is Saturday, November 20th. Here in the 518, AFSP has several events going on live throughout Albany. We also have a virtual offering from 1 to 4 p.m., which I will be a part of. Our virtual offering was the only offering last year, and it was very well attended. I'm hoping for people who don't want to go out and want to be home, they will register. So if you go to afsp.org and look up International Survivor of Suicide Loss Day, you can find all the registration information there. Thank you very much for everyone listening. I hope you enjoy this week's episode. Now, episode 125. Don't let the music die.
Welcome back, everybody.
Hey, what's up?
Thanks for tuning in for another fun-filled episode of Above Ground Podcast.
Above Ground Podcast, because you can't serve below.
No, you can't.
You know who that is?
Right now, I don't think Will knows who it is.
Nah, that's not true. I wish I didn't know who it was. You stepped right into that one, buddy.
I did.
Welcome back. Welcome back, everyone. If you've listened before, thank you. Thank you.
And if you haven't listened before, this is your first episode. You can go back and check out some other ones.
About 120 episodes.
Yeah.
By now. For you to go back to.
That's true.
It's a lot of episodes, man.
It's a lot of episodes.
It is a lot of episodes.
I was trying to think of the episodes that are our own, but I just lost the numbers of them, telling somebody if they stumbled across our podcast and they want to get to know their co-host a little better, where we're coming from.
Yes. And 84 and 85, 83, 84. I forget.
Yeah, sounds right.
It was a while ago.
It was a while ago.
It's all right.
It's all right. I've been wanting to kind of talk about this topic for a while.
Yeah.
And kind of shied away from it because I know Will's going to come at me with a shovel.
I'm going to go at you with a shovel.
But really, and all, I kind of did this with him in mind because I wanted to. One of the things, if you know Will, or if you don't know Will, you can listen to his episode. But one of the things that he has held on to through the years was a quote from Dr. Wayne Dyer, and it was, "Don't let your music die." Don't die with your music
still inside you.
Still inside you. I should have let you say that, but don't die with your music left inside you. So yeah, I kind of was going off of that, and I wanted to pick a title that kind of matched that, but wasn't a blatant rip-off of it. And, it was kind of like, don't let what's inside of you die. Don't let that, don't let your authentic you be pushed down or pushed aside and dismissed.
Episode 53 and 54 are ours. Wow. I know, no kidding.
50?
Yeah, dude.
Okay.
Wow.
Way off.
I know. No kidding. I was too. Wow.
Wow. So
That's a lot of
53,
episodes.
54. Okay. Well, yeah. So not living your authentic life, and the effects that it has on your mental health, and the effects that it could have on your mental illness, But I like to use the word autonomy. I just feel like it encompasses all these kind of nuts, and then you put them in a nice little mixed nut sack, and you can choose all the different kinds of nuts.
Yeah, I got a couple nuts you can choose from.
Salted or unsalted.
Chocolate salty balls.
So, but for real though, I think if you pay attention to certain things, either within you or if you want to watch somebody else and you pay attention to certain things that they do, and one thing that I feel that a lot of people get they let it bother them. They let this fire burn inside of them to make them, to turn them into anger and mad and all that kind of sadness type feelings. And it seems to be the ones that are living a lie, when they're not living up to their true selves, or they're trying to be something that they're not, And I know in the past, for me, trying to be something that I wasn't was a big factor with my wellness.
I got a question for you.
Yeah.
So, are we talking about autonomy, or are we talking about authenticity?
Well,
Because I know you were saying like autonomy is like one big.
yeah.
Because autonomy is the ability to move, right? The ability to move, the ability to.
Yeah, I kind of am viewing autonomy as like the ability to live your authentic life and to to say what to have a voice.
Okay, right, self-governing. Okay.
Yes.
All right.
That would be a better way to put it.
Okay.
Yes. But I guess I was talking about I guess
because you can be autonomous and not be authentic.
True.
So that's why I was trying to figure.
I think I do think they do kind of skip in the tulips.
Oh
together.
yeah, I could see them holding hands.
Yeah,
but they might be part of a threesome though.
They could be if they're lucky. But I think we've talked about this before. From birth, we're kind of conditioned to be something or pushed some way in which we may not want to be or want to have a voice in, but we're kind of geared. I don't want to say geared, but we're just shoved in a certain direction. Whether it's our parents or siblings, peers, school, relationships. Some of those can actually encourage us to grow, expand, and find our sense of self, and help us, I guess, in more of a positive way. But
yeah, I think that they all can if.
They definitely
all
can.
can.
But again, if they can, then they have the other side of it, which is they can actually diminish, shame, and guilt us, and actually stunt the growth process and have a more negative effect on our lives and the choices that we make.
Bingo.
That's just my take. But again, it was more of like I was kind of going off that quote, and it just made sense. I looked at it in a different perspective of. Your music's inside of you, and I feel like you need to let that music out. You need to let people hear that music.
You do. And the more you stuff it, or the more you minimize it, or the more you don't answer the bell, the worse it gets. Mm-hmm. And it's with anything. It doesn't matter. If your soul is trying to call out to you to do something.
Right, it's calling out for a reason, right?
It's calling out for a reason, man. It's calling out because you're not living up to your talents, to your ability.
Right.
And I think that So many of us, not just myself, not just you, not just so many of us are walking around in uniforms that we don't want to be in, regardless.
Yeah.
We take it on because we think it's the right thing to do, or we take it on because that's what our great grandfather did, and our grandfather did, and our granddad did, and our dad did, and it's just an ongoing thing, man. And if you don't let your music out, it will die inside of you. And it will be miserable for you.
Well, I think it'll. I think a piece of you dies.
Oh, it does. It does. There's definitely a piece of you that dies Yes, absolutely. Dr. Wayne Dyer, whose words those were that I heard in 2013 when I wanted to die. Like, those words literally doubled me over and started the whole process of, okay, I'm here now. What do I do? What's next? How do we work this out? How do we start? But I heard this from him. There's a book called The Death of Ivan Illich. And it's a very famous book that I think Tolstoy wrote, if I'm not mistaken. And the whole premise of the book was that he was mad at his wife because he felt that she was the reason why he never did anything. And on his deathbed, he realized, what if you had realized that you had lived the wrong life the whole entire time you were alive?
Oh, that was him?
The death. Yeah, and I'm not saying, and I'm not saying it correctly,
yeah.
But so yes, part of you dies. And look, we die every day. The same you that woke up today is not the same you that woke up yesterday. So let's get this straight. We're all going, okay? We're all going. Doesn't matter. Nobody's getting out of here alive. Jim Morrison told you a long fucking time ago, okay? We're not getting out. And every time we wake up, we've just gotten one more click off the track, man. That's it. And you don't have that back. And if you need to figure out who that authentic self is, then you need to do it. And the autonomy to be able to do that is not a luxury that everybody has, man. You know what I mean? We don't all have autonomy to take a week to go to a retreat. We don't all have the autonomy to even go to therapy, because there's people who can't get out of work to go to therapy that, need therapy. And I think, like, when we take our own autonomy away by the choices that we make, by the debt that we collect and all that stuff.
And that's kind of exactly where I wanted to go, is that absolutely, like, even just your voice, taking your voice away. Like,
right.
Yeah, you may not be able to do some of those things, but you still have a voice that you need to, whether or not people are listening, that's going to be another variable, but you do have to get it out, and kind of, you don't need someone's permission or approval to do something that you feel is right for you, as long as it's not going to harm you or others.
Right. You need your approval.
Right.
And that's something, though, I think that people have a hard time with. Because, again, that's autonomy. Autonomy is the responsibility that you have, that it's your life to do whatever it is. So I think so many of us don't actually want that autonomy.
Oh, I agree. I think that's why I love this topic, because I think it's a big key. It's a big key in this. And again, what you were just talking about, not being not having your voice or letting your music die inside. These are things that are going to take pieces of you away, and it's just gonna. If you have a mental illness, it's gonna, increase the chances of it being horrible. And if you don't have a mental illness, you're going to be susceptible to having one in the future.
Absolutely. Just because you don't have one now doesn't mean your brain can't get sick.
Right.
Your brain can get sick at any time, just like any other part of your body.
Right. Because again, these are habits that we can kind of create based on other people's limits on us. Which is,
Sure.
if you're looking at it that way, it's like you're doing yourself a disservice. It's not really fair to have somebody say, well, you know what, you can't be a plumber, or you can't do this, and you're better off doing this. It's like, well, wait a minute. Why can't I? And maybe you can't, but
maybe you can't.
You should be able to choose. You should be able to say to yourself, why can't I? And then go in and find out and go, okay, this is why I can't. Or maybe I don't want to be and not worry about it. But again, you should have that choice.
Absolutely. And true autonomy is the fact that you make that choice for yourself and say, I'm going to try it. And if it doesn't work, then it doesn't work and you go back and do something else.
Yeah.
Is that kind of where you were going?
Yeah.
Now, so where does authenticity, do you think, play into this? Because again, you can be autonomous and not be authentic.
I think the authenticity part is finding that music inside of you and getting it out and playing it, and not not worrying about someone saying you can't play that music, or that music's no good, or why are you playing that music, or you don't.
That music's too loud.
Whatever it is, and it's not worrying about that. It's about whether it's facing your fears, whether it's loving yourself or learning to love yourself, whether it's picking up that guitar and playing that song out loud. Again, maybe it's in certain situations it's facing a fear that the song might not be good enough.
Sure.
But you play it and people around you are like, what? Wait a minute. This is amazing. And you're like, oh, it is? Like, you don't know. But you know what I mean? Like, you don't know because you stuffed it inside of you, and you may have listened to other people tell you that song wasn't good enough.
Right. And what you believe, you become. And if you believe that about yourself enough, dude, take it from me. You find yourself at the bottom of a fucking a 10-story staircase that you got to climb out of.
Yeah.
Year after year, cycle after cycle, where, you may get to the second floor, you fall down, you go back to the first, you go back up to the fourth, you come down to the second. It's tiring, man. It's tiring.
It is tiring. And
it takes your autonomy away.
Right.
Because you don't want autonomy at that point, because you don't feel that you can even do autonomy justice, because you can't get out of your own fucking way.
Right. So it's almost like that weird cycle of you can't sleep because you're depressed, and you not sleeping is not helping your depression.
Right.
You know
exactly.
What I mean?
Right. Exactly. It's exactly what it is.
You're like, what? You know what I mean? It's.
And then, of course, you can't settle down to sleep because your head's going. You can't sleep. Mm-hmm. You need to get up in 6 hours.
Right.
So you're hearing all the jibber jabber from the gremlins going.
Yeah.
And then so it takes your autonomy away, and then it starts to take your authenticity away.
Right.
Because you can't be who you are if you're exhausted.
There you go.
You can't be who you are if you're not firing on all cylinders, man.
Right. And that's kind of why I wanted to talk about it, because it I think it's part of it. I think it's extra pieces that we may not talk about or people don't look at, and it's I'm not saying my authentic self is to go out and do whatever I want. There's obviously, I'm not telling you to go out and, start smashing,
Yeah, dude, this isn't anarchy. This isn't the purge.
Exactly.
I mean, come on, man.
Exactly.
Use some fucking common sense.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sorry, but use some
you're
fucking
right.
common sense.
I just felt like I should have said that just in case. But I'm saying like you said, it's to do these things and be able to do them and say to myself, I did this. This was my song, and I took it out, and now this is a song here that I made and that I did. You know what I mean? Yeah, people may not like it, but it doesn't matter. It's like you created this song, and by stuffing it, you're doing a disservice to yourself. And you could possibly be doing a disservice to others.
You are doing a disservice to others because again, by you closing that energy off from you, you're closing yourself off from others. So you can't, how can you have any energy exchange when you've already negated some of your energy, man.
Right.
Because you're too busy covering up because you don't want to be seen.
Right.
And that takes more energy.
Oh yeah, that's draining.
Draining.
What were you saying? Like that's that debt you're lugging around.
Yeah,
man.
dude. It's like that
luggage.
ball, man. It's that old chain that, from the chain gang. You're just dragging that shit around like you can't escape it.
Right. Yeah, that's heavy. And,
very heavy, man.
And you can't, if you're worried about dragging that around and you're consuming all your energy dragging that around, then there's not enough energy to do what you want to do.
Yeah, there's no autonomy.
Right?
You're spending all your energy going, okay, I got to get this ball up off the ground because I got to move. Oh, boy, I got to move this ball now.
Right.
So you're spending, think about it if you're trying to quit smoking out there, cigarettes. People do this, because I've heard this analogy a lot. You spend half the time trying to figure out where you're going to go smoke, figuring out where you're going to get smokes from, and it's just like I hear this all the time from my mother. It's just like it's exhausting.
Do they let her smoke in it?
Well, not inside.
Well,
but,
no, I know that.
Well,
but
yeah, of course. Yeah, she's still her own fucking person. But this is the part of autonomy that I don't fucking like.
Right.
Because again, where is the decision to you take mental illness into consideration for autonomy? When is the decision that it's right for somebody to have their autonomy taken away?
Yeah, well, when it becomes unhealthy for that person or unsafe for that person.
Right, and it's
I get it when, that I'm just going to use this as an example. I get the whole cigarette thing because, if you're an elderly person, 60, 78, and you've been smoking for, 50 years and you want your cigarettes, at that point, it's like, choose your battle. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I get it, but it doesn't mean that that was part of my setting boundaries, though.
Right.
Was like, no, I'm not going to let you talk to me like that. And I'm not going to just sit here and listen to all this shit every time and just get up and move and leave.
Right. And yeah, I mean, that's part of your
autonomy. That's part of my autonomy.
Exactly.
So it was like,
and to protect you and to keep your wellness intact, I guess I'll say, that's what you have to do. And if that's what you have to do, then obviously that's, and really it doesn't matter whether you have to or not. If it's working for you and it's making you feel better, and it's a positive thing in your life, then yes.
But what if your autonomy is working for you, but it's not working for anybody else? Like, when is, I mean, like, well, again, where is there?
I'd have to, it might be individualistic, and I'd have to, I don't know. I don't know if I quite understand it. I mean, I do, but I'd have to like,
well, maybe it's like, when does autonomy become selfishness? Does it become self-serving? You know what I mean?
Again, I think there might be some common sense in there. You know what I mean? Like, just, you can have autonomy and be kind and still be respectful. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, I don't doubt that at all. I'm just wondering, like when autonomy isn't the right choice all the time.
Well, yeah, I mean, I guess it won't be the right choice all the time.
Do you think everybody should have full autonomy all the time?
Well, that's the thing. I guess full autonomy. I mean, I'm not saying. I don't know if I would say full autonomy. I mean, you have to be able to have a voice, we'll say. Like, you have to be able to have a voice. But at the same time, you have to understand you are free to choose whatever it is you want to say or do, but you are not free from those consequences.
Okay. How do you teach a kid that, though? Like, because again, you have to teach, like, they have to be taught in a way that they're going to accept.
Yeah, that could be taught. I mean, I'm not a professional, but I mean, that can be taught with, I guess with boundaries and rules, like you break this rule, then, you
you
can't
lose your autonomy.
Well, you can't. Yeah, you can't. You can't play Xbox or whatever you want to do. You lose social media for the night or whatever. Yeah.
Do you think that sets a good precedent, or
Yeah.
do you think that
Because I don't think, like, when you say autonomy, I think there's lines or limits. I mean, you can't.
Well,
just
are there degrees of?
degrees? We'll say that. You could
Is
say
there
that.
degrees of autonomy?
Yeah. Yeah, because you can't just, well, I want to do, it's more or less for, I don't really know how to say it.
Decision making, maybe.
Like you can include, here's a better way to do it let's use that example with a child. Okay, I'm going to set out a rule right now, and you're going to know right off the bat what the rule is. So you actually have autonomy. You may want to do this, but if you do it, you're breaking the rule, therefore you give up this. You know what I mean? Like, or you could say, if you break this rule, you can either get stuck doing the dishes for a week or taking the garbage out for a week. Kind of give them that kind of, oh, well, I get a pick. Okay.
All right. That's not a bad, actually, example, I suppose.
I suppose you're right. I suppose. Will's over here with his pipe.
I suppose that's a good point. Hey, I like that point.
Good point there, young chap.
Thank you for sharing that.
Good sir. Yeah, I mean, I don't want to get too into it, but I think there's different degrees, as you would say. Like you can, let's say for another example, for a child, if they're sitting down and they're coloring a coloring book, they have the coloring book and they're going outside the lines and, if a parent rush over there and you can't color outside the lines, you have to color, and then they're coloring the tree and they're making the tree red. Well, trees aren't red. You got to color it green. Well, why? The kid wants a red tree. Let him have a red tree, right? What's the harm in that?
Yeah, there's no harm in that.
No, I mean, again, there's limits. Like if he's coloring outside the lines, and then he's 20 years old, still coloring outside the lines. Obviously there's
Well, there's something going on there.
Yeah.
Or he's just a troll.
Could be. But I mean, you just have to I guess, be mindful of the whole situation, and
There's that word again.
It's everything.
Jesus, that word, mindful, mindful, not mindful, mindful.
Yeah, I mean that's where it starts, right?
Yeah, it does. It starts with that. It starts with that thought, and whether or not that thought takes you to where you want it to go, or where that thought wants to take you to go. Because not every thought wants to take you in the right place. So it is kind of one of those things.
And then that thought can actually lead you to a certain feeling, and that feeling is not necessarily logical, and it's not necessarily factual either.
Yeah, your emotions aren't necessarily factual. They're an indicator of how you feel, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they're an exact answer to what's going on.
Right. Yes.
That doesn't mean that that's not how you feel. They just may not. They don't encompass the whole situation necessarily, because that's how you feel about something.
Right. I guess, for this particular, autonomy is, I was looking at it with a lot of what you said earlier and how it pertains to mental illness and how it's incorporated through the early years. And, if you're a square peg and someone's trying to put you in a circle hole, it's not going to work. And they shouldn't carve you out to make you fit in that circle hole. They should let you be a square.
I agree. Unfortunately, that's not generally how it works. They
Right.
they grind you down until
Right.
until
Which I think could
fit.
be a factor in the a start of a snowball that's going to turn into something.
Yeah, I think I'll agree with you on that. I think that and that is baked into the system. That's
Right.
That is something that's there, and it's everywhere. It's not. I mean,
sure.
it's everywhere.
Oh yeah,
It's everywhere.
No, I agree. It is.
And
it is.
it's hard to buck a system like that if you're not mindful, because then if you're going to be completely autonomous and work within those parameters, you have to be on your game, because you're doing that much more work to try to stay
right
to stay
right.
ahead.
And like I said, you can have autonomy and live within the rules and the laws. You know what I mean? You can't.
Sure, absolutely you can.
know what
But
I mean?
Because again, we do it every day.
Right.
There's a certain we're all autonomous. It's
Sure.
not like, dude, you have the right to get up and decide not to go to work. Okay.
Right.
That doesn't mean your job's going to be there.
Right, and
but
that's
you
why I
have that
said
right
earlier,
to do. You
right.
have that right to do it. Just like you have the right to drink and drive. That doesn't mean it's right.
Right.
But that doesn't mean that you wouldn't go out and do it.
Right,
It's
and
just
that's what I'm
that
saying,
doesn't
like-
mean it's right.
Right.
Or that or
Yeah.
anything. But it's
Right.
like. But you could go do that. But if you're going to face the consequences
Right.
for doing that,
Right.
and there's responsibility for having autonomy.
Sure, there is.
But what is the responsibility of in mental illness though around autonomy? Like, I mean, because again, we don't want to take people's autonomy away from them.
No, we definitely don't.
So that means you need very steadfast community supports, and you need a system that works for people.
And I think being proactive, having prevention set in place for, early.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
I think
Absolutely. That's a good.
You know what I mean? It's like, again, we wait for someone to have a crisis, and then we go, okay, let's put a plan together. No. Like you have a child and they grow up, and you want them to eat healthy and do this stuff. Well, it's the same thing with your brain, man. You want them to eat healthy, but like you don't care what other stuff they're doing.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like
Right.
you care about that part. It's like at the same time, like, well, you might as well let them go outside and have a cigarette while you're at it. It's like, you know what I mean? Like pay attention to your mental health.
Yeah.
It's
yeah.
that. I mean, it's that important, man. It's that important to me.
It is. It is.
You know.
It is important. It's
And
very important.
if you set prevention in place, I think that it would help.
But here we have a problem though listening to prevention nowadays. We have a problem listening to what people want to tell us to do, man. So again, how do you, cuz look, you're not going to convince half the people nowadays that this is even something
Sure.
that's
that's
even
okay.
worth talking about.
Yeah, and that's okay. If you can get a handful, 3 or 4 people even, to understand and go, okay, well this is, and that's the thing. It's like if you're making cars, you're making cars for people that like cars and that are going to be dry. You know what I mean? It's like you're not making cars for everybody, because some people are going to be like, oh, I want a truck, or I don't drive a car. I'll never drive that. Like, okay, well that's not for you. And that's perfectly okay. You just go find something else that is for you.
Right. Okay.
Right or no?
I guess.
I suppose.
I suppose. Well, yeah, of course, you got to go find whatever's right for you.
Right.
But, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's right either. So it's like one of those.
Yeah, I mean,
it's
again,
like one of those,
there's guidelines, there's rules, there's laws. I mean, you can't get.
But yeah, but what about somebody who doesn't want to work within those parameters? Like,
Well,
again, man, like There's an obvious point of there's a reason to have a certain amount of rules.
Oh, yeah.
And there's a certain amount of expertise that is needed to make certain decisions regarding things. You can be autonomous, but that doesn't mean that you know everything because you read one book.
Right.
That'd be like me saying, because the more I read, the less I know. Because it's just there's too many other questions that lead from other questions,
true.
And things, and it's just like
one hurdle leads to 4 more hurdles.
Yeah, and it's just like one door leads to 3 more doors, and you open those doors, they may lead you down 2 staircases and another
and I think
elevator.
That in that case, then you have to decide like what doors are going to bring me closer to where the landmines are. What doors are going to, bring me closer to why I get angry at this or this, What doors are going to help me find more joy in my day? What doors are going to bring more overall wellness to my life?
Yeah, that's what it's all about, bringing more wellness to your life.
Right?
Right. And you can't have a well brain unless you take care of your mentals.
Right.
You just can't. It doesn't work that way.
No.
So go do some biceps for your brain. Read a book.
Biceps for your brain. You heard it here first.
Read a book.
Read a book. Take a walk.
Read a book. Take a walk.
Play some Sudoku.
Yeah.
Word search.
Yeah, word search. Word puzzles. Listen to a podcast. Get some
Above Ground podcast.
Get some education. Learn something new. Learn something new, man. That's one of the best ways. One of the best ways to develop autonomy is to learn something new. Learn something new that, you can take on with you to the next thing.
Sure. That's something that, and you're absolutely right. You're right, because when you learn something new, when you learn a skill or trade or whatever it is, that's something, nobody can take that away from you.
No, nobody can ever take that away because you have that knowledge.
Right.
And knowledge is potential power, man.
Right.
Because it's all about what you do with it.
Right.
Because the gas don't drive the car. You got to put the gas in the car.
That's right. Schooling 101.
Yeah. Well, we appreciate everybody listening again to the Above Ground podcast this week, man. We are sailing in through 2021 quickly, and we're almost in November at this point. It's like, wow, damn, it's going by so fast. It's going by fast. It always does after summer, man. Always does. Wow.
On that note, hey, you know what, though? You can still find us on all the socials. You can also leave a review or you can subscribe. And if you happen to listen to us on YouTube, you can hit that notification bell, right? And
ding!
Ding! That's
Ding, fries are done. Ding, fries are done.
So, what else? Anything else?
No. I just wanted to say ding, fries are done.
That's it. Fries are done. So
fries are done.
We have to go and eat some fries.
That's right. So, until next time, be well. Be safe. Be above. If you've lost someone to suicide, you may feel overwhelmed by grief, confusion, or even anger, but you are not alone. The American Foundation for Suicide Prevention offers support in the weeks and months following a suicide. The Healing Conversations program gives those who have lost someone to suicide the opportunity to talk with a caring volunteer. Having experienced suicide loss themselves, our volunteers know firsthand the emotions associated with this type of loss. They can offer comfort and guidance, as well as community resources that may be useful on the path ahead. Healing Conversations are available in person, on the phone, or by video chat. To learn more about the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention and how to schedule your own healing conversation, please visit afsp.org/healing conversations.